Kia ora koutou, ko Victoria McLennan toka ingoa. Welcome to Bridging the Gap, a podcast that celebrates diversity here in Aotearoa, New Zealand's digital technology industry. I'm the CEO of IT Professionals, Te Pou Hangarau Ngaio. From developers to programmers, product managers to designers, this field is filled with a wide range of individuals who bring unique perspectives and skills to their mahi. Join us as we delve into the stories and experiences of those who strive to bridge the gap and foster a more inclusive and thriving digital technology community here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Today I'm joined by the fabulous Elinor from the other side of the world. Kia ora, Elinor. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I can't remember when we last saw each other, but it was pre-COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, it would have been around 4 years ago. Yeah, too long ago.
It is. It's a long time. So tell us where you are for a start and what time is it right now?
Yeah, thanks, Vic. So I'm Elinor, and I currently live and work in Tel Aviv in Israel. So literally one of the furthest places you can get from New Zealand, but it's one of the biggest tech ecosystems, and it's great being part of it. At the moment, where it's 8:45 in the morning here, so it's a decent hour to have a chat.
Yeah. I was worried I got you out of bed,
No, very good.
I interviewed someone the other day, and he was in India, and it wasn't until after we'd stopped recording he told me that it was 4 a.m.
Oh, no.
I felt so bad, so that's why I thought I'd ask. So you've been in this fabulous industry for a few years. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your potted history and what you're doing now?
Absolutely. So I started off actually outside of the industry. I studied mechanical engineering, and I did my PhD in mechanical engineering. And towards the end of my PhD, I was trying to figure out what the next steps would be. Where do I see myself? What do I want to do? How do I want to contribute to society? And it was actually at an event that was held at one of the big tech companies in New Zealand, where a woman spoke about her role. She described what she does on a day-to-day basis, the fact that she works with customers, she brings them innovative technologies, she works with them to implement it and make sure that they reap the rewards out of these technologies. And I was hooked. I was like, wow, this combines everything that I want to do and, working with customers and real world problems. And I was like, I want some of that. And that's what gave me the first exposure to the industry. And really, I keep telling the story in different environments, because if it wasn't for that exposure, if I didn't have the transparency into what a job in tech could look like, I would have never thought to apply for it. So fast forwards, a year later, I applied for a job. I worked at IBM in New Zealand for a couple of years as a digital consultant. I then moved into working at Soul Machine, so one of the leading startups in New Zealand, again for a year and a half. Both of these roles were combining both tech and people skills, right? So again, how do we take amazing, innovative, cutting edge technology to different companies? How do we make sure that they understand how it can benefit them? How do we work with them to implement it, integrate it into their systems, both from a tech point of view, but from a people point of view as well? So obviously there's a lot of technical challenges, but a lot of people and change management challenges as well. And absolutely love that kind of role. And I'm quite grateful that I found what fits me. So yes, I worked, my last gig in New Zealand was working at Soul Machines. I worked with different companies around the world to implement digital humans. And then I decided, that I wanted to move on to my next challenge. And I wanted to be part of a bigger industry, a bigger ecosystem. And that's how that's what pushed me to move to Tel Aviv. So for those that don't know, Tel Aviv, other than San Francisco, Tel Aviv is the biggest hub for startups in the world. If you look at the money raised, it raises, an insane amount of money. There's lots of VCs based here. So yeah, lots of startups, and also a lot of the larger enterprises are based here. They're AWS, Google, Microsoft, Intel. So really a very strong hub when it comes to tech, and I wanted to be part of it. So I joined a company as a product manager. I moved to different roles in there, and at the moment I am 2.5 years into my experience at a company called Rookout, where we have a live debugging platform for developers. And there I lead the solution engineering team.
Wow. Wow. I'm just always wow with you. So just a crazy question that just popped into my mind. So working in Tel Aviv in the tech sector, is English the primary language, or is there a language barrier there?
No, so everyone works in English.
Right.
Everything written, be it in Slack, email, WhatsApp, it's all in English. And meetings, it depends on the crowd. So if you've got a full Israeli team in a meeting, they would probably talk in Hebrew. As soon as you've got one person who's not fluent in Hebrew, right, it would switch to English. And one of the things I would say, for people who don't speak Hebrew, we do have an advantage. English is our mother language. So we're at advantage in terms of working with customers, because most of our customers are English speakers. So it's not hard fitting in. But, it's always good to know the local language, because lunch is always done in Hebrew, and your corridor conversations are in Hebrew. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, that popped into my head while I was
it's true.
listening to you. So you came from a really interesting space, another part of STEM, I guess, and then, as you described, came into tech. Tell me about some of the challenges you've faced as a woman working in the digital technology industry and how you've overcome those.
Yeah, 100%. So I'll tell you that, as you said, I started in mechanical engineering.
Yeah.
And to give you context, that is the field with the least amount of women. So I remember when I worked, actually during my PhD, I worked with a BMW. So I was in their offices and I wanted to go to the bathroom, and the women's bathroom was literally in a separate building. So it can't get worse than that. But yeah, so moving to tech was a bit refreshing. But it still gets to the fact that, you're lacking role models that look like you, people that you can aspire to be like. It's one thing to have a mentor who's, a male mentor who's fantastic and really aspirational, but you can't relate to them as much. You can't see yourself in their shoes. And I think the biggest thing for me was that, there are less people that I can aspire to be like, because I don't look like them. I don't behave like them. And that's what gets to me. So the lack of role models, women role models, there are some out there, you're one of them, but I think that's the biggest challenge, is not being able to see who I can be like in the industry as much.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that's the whole reason why I've started this podcast, because I really want people to see that there is an opportunity to join the digital technology industry and to showcase not only the diversity of women who are in this industry, but also people from different backgrounds and the diversity of the different roles. And you just talked about, you started as a product manager. That's a fairly new role. Not many people have been product managers for a very long time. And if you haven't worked in software as a service before, you wouldn't even know what that is. So being able to showcase some of the different roles that there are too.
100%. Yeah.
So what do you think some of the unique skills that women bring to this industry?
So first and foremost, hardworking. I think we can all comfortably make this generalization that women give everything their all, and they work exceptionally hard, and they strive for higher quality. And I can say this wholeheartedly with fellow women that I've worked with women that I've managed. They really, really aspire to do things to a higher standard. But other than that, the unique skill set, which I think is really relevant in our industry today, is the empathy side of things. Tech, we generally think of this industry as someone just coding in front of their computer in a cave, not talking to anyone. But that's the furthest away we can get from the true world, because a lot of what we do and a lot of businesses rely on having customers and having people use the technology and understand it. And so one of the most important things we need in this industry are people who can relate to other people, who can convince other people, be it in sales, be it in marketing, be it, people like me who have to gain other people's trust because we're integrating technologies in sensitive places in their workforce. I need to build that trust through empathy so that they'll feel comfortable working with me. So this empathy is a game changer. And I think it is what sets people apart in this industry, how well you can work with people, how well you can get along with people, and how well people can trust you. And that's something that I see women really bringing to the table.
That's really awesome and great insight. So if there's someone watching this who is considering coming into the digital technology industry or working in another career and considering changing into this industry, what kind of advice would you give them on getting started or what to expect? Or have you got some advice for anyone who's thinking about it?
Absolutely. So there are a few things I would say, do your homework in terms of gain some basic skills. What is it that you want to do? How do you want to contribute? And again, tech isn't just coding, but if coding is what you're passionate about, do some courses online. There's so many resources, so many assets online that you can use to learn whatever you want. We talked a little bit about product management. I did a Udemy course in product management from the comfort of my own home. It teaches you everything you need to know to interview and to work successfully. Hopefully you need to practice a bit as well, but it does give you that background. So whatever kind of role you want to go into, have a look at online content as a first step. And then the second one is really, see what you're passionate about, because, the specific role is one thing, but the application is another thing. Are you incredibly passionate about transport and finding solutions for the transport industry? Would this be a company that suits you? Or are you really passionate about financial services? How does banking work? How do we provide those services? So understand what you're passionate about. And it can be multitude of things. And then try and find people that work in that, hear from them. What do they do on a day-to-day basis? Get insights from them into how to get into that industry. So there are a lot of things we can do. And there are a lot of things we can do that are free. Most of these things are free. So it shouldn't take too many resources to get into the industry.
If you're an IT professional or aspiring to be one, we encourage you to check us out. As New Zealand's only digital technology industry body who is focused exclusively on the people who work in this industry, we provide a range of resources, events, and networking opportunities to help you grow your career and stay up to date with the latest trends and technologies. Visit our website at itp.nz or flick us an email, info@itp.nz. I'm going to ask you an off-script question now. So what's one of the biggest kind of contrasts that you've found has been different from working in the industry in Aotearoa, New Zealand, to working in the industry in Tel Aviv? Have you noticed any real differences?
It's a good question. I think the biggest thing, I think the biggest thing is that personal life does intermingle with work life a lot more here. Sorry about that. So, for example, I remember 3 months into working in my first company here in Tel Aviv, I got invited to a colleague's wedding. And and that's absolutely normal here. In contrast to that, when I worked in New Zealand for 2 years, I didn't know whether my CEO was married with kids or not. And so I think there's a lot more distance between people in New Zealand, and people are very familiar with each other here in Israel. And there are pros and cons. On one hand, you form a lot deeper relationships with the people that you work with, but on the other hand, you have less separation. So I'm not saying one is better than the other, but it's a huge difference if I compare the two industries.
That's amazing insight. Thank you for sharing that. Sorry, put you on the spot to ask that. I've now got a good gnarly one for you. If you could invent something to solve a wicked problem, what problem would you want to solve?
Yeah, so one of the one of the sectors I'm most passionate about at the moment is transport, and I think a lot of our issues and concerns in life come down to transport. Where do I live? That's accessible to work. How do I get to see my friends and family? And obviously all the environmental impacts around that. So one of the things I would love to solve is how do we get from A to B in the most efficient manner? And there's a ton of work that is taking place around this, a lot of solutions, and we are improving, right? I don't know what the situation's like in New Zealand at the moment, but in Israel, you see a lot more electric cars, for example, and rideshare apps and so on. But I think there's a lot more work to be done there, and that's something that I would love to see improve and us finding more and more solutions for.
I have to say there are a lot more Teslas near where I live than
amazing.
I feel comfortable about it. And there's a lot of talk at the moment about how we could have high-speed rail in New Zealand and what kind of investment that would be like. Imagine if there was a commuter train from Wellington to Auckland sort of discussions. So people are really engaging in how do we change the transport system every day. And the other thing that's happened here post-COVID for the last couple of years is the government have subsidised public transport really heavily. So it's really cheap to use trains and buses, but they haven't invested in improving that transport. So it's still the slow train and the irregular bus.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of room for improvement and a lot that the tech industry can contribute to there. There's obviously the heavy infrastructure, but in terms of how do we provide the services, how do we optimize them, a lot can be done by the tech industry.
Yeah. So let's talk tech for a minute. What are some of the more exciting things that you're seeing in the digital technology space at the moment and the potential that you think they might have to really change things and change the game moving forward?
Yeah, I think the exciting things for me is anything that brings people closer together and kind of brings down barriers and, removes borders. One of the examples is, a company that enables you to have a digital bank where as a company you can pay anyone around the world, or a company that provides you the infrastructure to hire anyone from around the world, or the technology that we all love and use on a daily basis around video chats and video calls. And not only that, the fact that it's becoming more and more accessible to non-digital native folks. So the fact that I can talk with my parents who only recently got their first smartphone, and they feel comfortable with this technology.
Wow.
So So anything that brings people closer together and brings down barriers and borders, I think is phenomenal. And I'm really excited to see how these things progress even further.
Oh, that's awesome. And I just love the fact that we're just chatting now and there's no
Exactly,
lag.
and it's normal.
It is completely. It's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we go, I've got some quick fire questions for you. The first one, if you had to choose between having a robot assistant running around after you or an AI virtual assistant taking all the pain out of your workload, which one would you choose and why?
I'd go for an AI virtual assistant and I would make them focus on scheduling meetings. I think that's something that we still haven't cracked, right? Especially when we work with different people. So finding the right time that suits everyone. So I'd love that because unfortunately I still spend too long on that. Yeah,
I understand that completely. Now, next, what's the best tech gadget in your life right now?
So look, I have to choose my phone. I think does that count as a tech gadget or is it too lame of an answer?
No, totally.
I just the fact that we can have everything in our back pocket and not even think about it. And I think you feel it the most some days that you forget your phone at home. So how much you rely on it. Yeah.
And what's the worst tech gadget that you've got or invested in?
So I wouldn't necessarily say worse, but one of the ones that, I haven't used as much as I thought I would, were the tags to locate your luggage or your bags. Yeah. So I thought I would use it a lot more. And I had it on my keys because I always lose my keys and it just didn't become a habit for me. So it's something that it didn't quite catch on as much as I thought it would.
Well, I'm waiting for that technology to shrink so I can put it on my glasses.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because I misplace them all the time
All
and
the
know
time,
they're not
yeah.
on my head. I just put them down and forget where. Okay, next, what is your top tech tip that you give to people?
Just give it a go. I just try it
Nice.
out. If you're trying to get into the industry, it's full of normal people, real people, just like you. There's not a lot that sets us apart. If you're technical, there's a way in. If you're non-technical, there's a way in. So that's the biggest thing I would say is just give it a go, see where you can fit in, meet people, and try it out for yourself.
Do you doom scroll or do you shut it all down?
I shut it down.
Good to know. Well, when you said your phone was your favorite tech gadget.
Yeah, no, but I have strict rules. I have after a certain hour, there's no phone, and I try, on weekends to have at least one day without the phone. It really cleanses your mind. Yeah.
Nice. And finally, what makes you happy?
So just generally being around people. I think the energy from people really makes you happy, be it at work or outside of work. At work, as I said, I focused on doing a lot of, roles around people, making sure people use it. And the fact that I get to take innovative technologies to different people around the world, that does make me happy. And then outside of work, again, it's hanging out with people and being surrounded by positive energy.
Thanks for that. And that's great. And I really appreciate you giving me this time and having this chat. And I think you're a great role model, Elinor, as you know. So I know people will enjoy listening to your story.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Vic.
Ka kite. Bye.
All right. Cheers. Bye.
Kia pai tō rā. Thank you for listening. Join me at the next episode of Bridging the Gap.